and this is a sparrowhawk. So on the in the hen harrier hotline sightings, this is probably the highest sort of reports I get away from hen harriers, with people believing they're hen harriers, and rightly so, because they are very, very similar in their shape and structure. So just a few points about sparrowhawks. Sparrowhawks are an ambush predator. Unlike hen harriers that quarter large expanses of open ground, sparrowhawks are completely designed for ambush. Long tail, short, broad wings. So that you'll see them in the gardens, you'll see them sat on a fence at the bird table, you'll see them penetrating through dense woodland, whereas hen harriers, you will not see them do that. Hen harriers tend not to perch in trees away from small coniferous belts. It's not really a sort of a species trait in hen harrier, whereas sparrowhawks can sit for hours in trees preening or snoozing. You can see this is a juvenile sparrowhawk on the left hand side, the bigger picture, heavily scalloped all the way down its mantle and dorsal side, loads of lovely little buff rufous feather fringes. The tail, you can be forgiven because the tail is also ringed with those bars that cross horizontally over the tail, the length of the tail, which is similar to hen harriers. But in all ages of juveniles and adults, they have a pale iris, whereas in hen harriers, young females have a dark irid. So yeah, it's just something like you can completely be forgiven for mistaking a sparrowhawk for a hen harrier. But again, going back to writing notes and raptors, it's worth just sort of taking into account all of the variables, if that makes sense. You know, where they're perched, what they're eating, how they're acting. Do you see the same bird in the same spot? Is it chasing house sparrows, for example? And you can see here, this is an illustration of a adult male sparrowhawk. You can see the blueness isn't like that of the silver ghosting of a male hen harrier. It's got a lovely dark orange eye, where males, they tend to just stay yellow. They do get a bit darker yellow, but they don't tend to be as orange as that. And they've got a lovely orangey wash to their ventral side, so you can just see it there on the cheeks underneath the cap. And their fingers with the vestigial 10th primary, they have 6 fingers and they're tiny. Like a male sparrowhawk is really miniature, and a female is a bit larger, but not the size of a female hen harrier or male hen harrier. But again, you can be forgiven because that wing shape is very similar. Here's a goshawk, which is the Raptor brute. So this is, I haven't illustrated adults, I've just illustrated juvenile plumage here. So this is their first plumage. This is actually in its first summer, this is March. And you can see, again, very similar, but again, this is an ambush predator. So short, broad wings, long tail. And you do see them like brief views over moorland occasionally when they're going between coniferous woodland belts. But you rarely see them quartering open moorland like you will hen harriers. Hen harriers will have that pivoting flight with their wings raised in a strong dihedral, with their tail sort of closed and fanned at times when it's chasing quarry. Whereas an ambush predator, a real pursuit predator like goshawk, won't be quartering looking for its chance. It will just be like completely focused on one prey item and absolutely be tanking towards it. But yeah, I have had goshawk in the hen harrier hotline sightings before and some fantastic pictures. But I try and get back to everybody where I can, and help illustrate what they've seen. So away from the diurnal raptors we've discussed there, which was buzzard, common buzzard, sparrowhawk, Eurasian sparrowhawk, and northern goshawk. This is short-eared owl. So this is more of a confusion species given the habitat it lends itself to. Upland fells, rush beds. It occupies a very similar niche in the way it catches voles in those upland environments. Its display isn't as similar. It doesn't necessarily sky dance per se, where it will oscillate in the sky, but it does do a wing clap display where it does fluctuate in the air quite high up, which is at times, given their long and floppy wing beats, is quite similar to hen harrier. But as you can see there, this bird perched on a post. It's got really strong tarsus, big thick tarsus, which is the lower leg, heavily feathered tarsus, to prevent all those little mammal bites. and it's got zygodactyl feet, which are basically, you can see two talons at the front, two talons at the back, unlike raptorial feet, which are three at the front, one at the back. It's got, although hen harriers and owl-like face, these have like short-eared owls have a real prominent facial disc and a really dark inset eye. You see that, the dark against the iris. So yeah, it's something to be aware of. They don't have that really prominent white rump you'll see in like a ringtail or young harrier, hen harrier on the moor. But again, you can be, completely excused for thinking this bird's a hen harrier. And I do get many a short-eared owl in the sightings page, which is lovely anyway, because they're a remarkable and beautiful creature. So here's where it gets all a little bit easier. So going away from the female hen harriers and the confusion species, we start to get into the male hen harriers, which are a lot easier to understand and appreciate, given their feather topography, especially when they're adults, is completely different to the ringtails. So this is a fantastic picture taken by Jack Morris of a transitional male hen harrier. So you can see it looks almost, well, overall it looks like a ringtail, but you can see the grey blue sort of metal, powdery metal blue inner primaries growing through, compared to those first generation, the juvenile feathers on its outside. So it's beginning to get more polarized around the face, more contrasting. That iris is getting even brighter. It's starting to develop that really nice collar and a little nape shoal, like pale nape shoal. The rump and the uptail coverts are broadening out. It's getting more washed out. It hasn't replaced its central tail feathers here. It's just got a complete juvenile tail. But in time it will. So basically it starts its inner primaries. Once it's got through its inner primaries, once it's done a few, it will start then replacing its secondaries, working basically inwards towards the body at various focuses. It'll start to do the mantle. They tend to do the underside first. They tend to molt the central tail feathers and then continue to molt through from that focus. So over the breeding season, they'll attain more of a male plumage, and in their second calendar year, autumn, they'll start to look like a more adult bird. In their third calendar spring, they will basically look overall like an adult with some minor, rufous feather fringes in the underside, maybe a darker central tail feather or darker tail overall, some darker mantle feathers, some darker tertials, albeit grey, but darker grey. And you can see from the underside, this is a similar age bird, a different bird, but a similar age bird, a transitional male. So this is again in its first summer, its first breeding attempt. This is one of my favourite birds called Heath. He's got a satellite tag there. You can see on a colouring as we discussed. So you can see the grey nape coming through on his collar. He's starting to lose that juvenile streaking. He's attaining more of a white belly feathering. His head's looking almost adult. You can see in the greater coverts, in those speckled rufous feathers that basically cover and protect the secondaries, he's done a few on the outer greater coverts. He started to replace a few into sort of second generation, more adult-like white feathers. And those primaries we discussed, this is the underside. You can see it's those essentially 75% white, if not 80% white, with that black terminal band, which gives them that diagnostic hand. It's a shame this photo doesn't illustrate the hand being replaced, but you get the impression. So this is the poster boy. This is the adult male. So this is actually a 6 calendar year bird. So you can see vastly different to females. 6 calendar year bird, he's done quite a few molts. So basically he's in the pristine sort of peak of his life, and he's looking stunning as a result of it. It would be great if all of our birds could live to 6 calendar years so we could appreciate this plumage. But yeah, our team strives to ensure they stay airborne in England. Just thank you for your time. And yeah, keep those sightings coming. I'm more than happy to chat to you about raptors whenever. So if you want to get in touch with me or our team or report a sighting to the hotline, I'm more than happy to discuss this species with you. And happy birding. All the best.